Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig.
And I'm Sam.
And today we have a special review for you guys. We are going over the Aeldari Codex, or the Aeldari Codex.
Aeldari.
Aeldari. This is not going to be a full 100% comprehension review of all of this. We are going to go over specifically the Aeldari or the Eldar part. We'll save the rest of it for maybe another video, maybe not. Sam is going to be playing the Aeldari, so we're going to focus on them specifically.
Craft Worlds for life.
Yeah, but we just want to do kind of a quick review, not a 2-hour deep dive. We just want to give our opinions on it and go over some of the highlights of it.
The standouts. It's a huge codex.
It is
a lot to go through.
Codex. So if that sounds good, please like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our content here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios. We will start to cover a little bit more of the Eldar here and there. Not by any means a full, weekly rundown of everything, but we'll dabble with the Eldar now that Sam is diving into them.
Yep, and once I have all of my stuff finished and painted, you'll start seeing them in battle reports too.
Absolutely. And then if you do want to support the growth of this channel, we are growing at a pretty good rate. You can become a member, and that you'll get access to our member-only Discord channel, as well as members-only videos, list reviews, tactics, battle reports, things like that we cover there for our members. Now, with all that out of the way, let's dive into today's video. So in today's video, like we said, we're going to go over exactly what you get out of this mammoth of a book. We will cover some of the highlights, like we said, not everything in depth, but we'll go over Strands of Fate, because that is an important thing, some of the army special rules. We'll go over some of the psychic powers, some of the relics and warlord traits, the ones that we kind of like. The Exarch powers, there is a lot of these, so we'll just, again, cover some of them. And then in the end, we're going to go over some things we don't like, because this isn't a 100% perfect codex. It's not touched everything that we would have liked. So we will cover on it, and then in the end, just give you some final thoughts and opinions. So we mentioned this a little bit already, but this is thick. This is
Space Marine Codex size.
Yeah.
This is like 200 pages, which is that's unheard of for any other codex.
Non-Space Marine Codex. Yeah, it's basically 3 armies in one in this, which is nice, because if you want to touch on any of those, yes, you have to buy this thick book, but then you have all the rules in this.
Right.
It's not like Space Marines where you have to buy this thick book and a supplement if you want a specific chapter. Everything's in here.
Right. And it's standard codex price, which is now, as of the time we're recording this, $55, but you get 3 armies.
You get 3 armies worth. So I think it's worth it. Out of most codexes, this one's definitely one that's worth it the most. Again, you do get the Harlequins. They have not shrunk them down. They have basically just updated it and slapped it in here. So again, 2 codexes. Ynnari are in here. They have some interesting rules. Not going to touch on them too much, but not a huge fan of them. We'll say that's how it is. And then in a little bit, they did bring back the Corsairs, mainly for kill team, but you can't implement them in a standard 40k army. 2
units, not the army list they used to have.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that again later.
All right.
So, yeah, like we said, we're going to be covering the special rules that they have, and their 2 big ones are Battle Focus and Strands of Fate. Battle Focus is a super cool rule, in my opinion. It really hammers home the maneuverability and dexterity of Eldar, kind of shifting and moving around the battlefield, dodging out of the way of things. It's a special rule that most of their infantry and bikes get. And it allows them, it increases their maneuverability, like I said. You can advance and shoot assault and pistol weapons as if they were stationary, which all shuriken weapons, I think, are assault. And so that means they're basically, you can advance and shoot, all the way up the board until you hit the enemy and charge in. Or if you make a normal move or remain stationary, you can move d6 inches after shooting. Unfortunately, they took away, I think fire dragons used to have the ability where they could jump out of a transport, nuke something, and then jump back into the transport. So thankfully, or not thankfully, depending on how much you liked fire dragons, they can't do that anymore. And if you try to move through a piece of area terrain, you take a -3 penalty, which means on a d6, there's a 50-50 shot that you're just not going to move anywhere. But that does still mean if you're behind cover, you can jump out and then jump back and use it as obscuring line of sight, not necessarily moving through it.
Yeah, so it'll be, you'll have to play the game. The reason I see they did the 3 inches, again, like you said, so you're not toying with obscuring terrain too much. You still can, but you can't reliably poke into cover, shoot, poke out, and say, oh, you can't see me anymore.
Yeah.
So they're trying to limit that, and I'm glad the 3-inch penalty is because
it's still a powerful ability.
Still very good.
Yeah, jump, shoot, jump again. If you've played older editions of 40K is kind of a nightmare ability. Tau used to have it on all of their battle suits, and actually
they do now again.
They do again?
On some stuff,
okay.
Not everything, but on some things they have the ability to do that as well.
Yeah, and it's always been a powerful ability. And here it is, and I think it's a really great army-wide buff.
Yeah, definitely.
For everything that has it. The other special rule is Strands of Fate. So this is kind of the esoteric one. Again, battle focus represents their maneuverability on the battlefield. Strands of Fate represents their ability to use their psychic abilities to manipulate the weave of battle and basically foresee how things are going to go for them. The Farseers and their precognition, it's a big part of their lore, picking and choosing their battles. But how it works is that at the start of each battle round, you roll 66, and then you consult the chart, which should be up on the screen here. And then you take a look at the number you rolled for each of the 66, and depending on the size of battle, you can take anywhere from 2 to 5 and keep them in a separate pool. And so whenever you make a test related to the Strands of Fate thing that you rolled, you can substitute one of those Strands of Fate die as an unmodified 6.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Miracle Dice, but it's much more specific because you can't use it for anything whenever you want, but it always counts as an unmodified 6, so it's more finicky, but it's also much more powerful and consistent. Yeah,
so the things you can, I mean, advanced rolls is fine. Charge rolls is huge because you can, if you want, if you roll 2 2s, you have 2 6s, you could put that on 1 charge.
You can only use 1
per roll?
1 per roll.
Never mind. This is why Sam knows the Eldar.
But that's still 6 plus whatever you roll.
Yeah.
And it's something we don't actually touch on in the video, but you can basically use Falcons as drop pods now. So if you pop like Banshees or Striking Scorpions out of that and put the 6 on there, that's almost a guaranteed charge with the command point reroll too. So
Falcons can deep strike?
Yes. Oh. Yes, like drop pods, kind of.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it just Falcons or can all the transports do it?
I think it's just Falcons.
Wow.
That's
cool.
This is, we haven't taken a real deep look at the Codex yet. This is kind of our initial thoughts, but that's what I've seen and that's what I read glancing through the Codex. So,
okay, so that makes deep strike charges very reliable there. The other one that's big is saving throws. Having an unmodified 6 because you have a lot of 5 and 6 up invones in the army. So being able to be like, nothing, that's not going to go. Or something like the Avatar who's got, has he got a 2-up save or something?
I think so, yeah, something like that.
2-up and a 4-up invone and if he just can automatically pass invone saves essentially, it's pretty good.
Pretty brutal.
We do also have, I want to show it off. We have a Strands of Fate counter. It's gonna be on the Etsy shop. It is right now. It essentially holds the 12mm dice and it lets you keep track of what Fate dice you have in order to use for the battle round. Thought it would be perfect because they don't really give you any way to keep track of this without referencing the Codex. So
yeah, it's a really cool ability, but it's kind of a bookkeeping thing that, especially if you're not used to the Codex yet, or you're thinking of like all the billion different things that this Codex can do, it can be easy to forget if you don't have a way to keep track of them.
So little widgets like this will help you remember this rule because it is so important.
Yeah.
So now we got Psychic Powers. This is one of my favorite portions because I do love the Psychic phase a lot. Psychic, as a Tyranid player, I'm very jealous that you have 3 Psychic trees that you get to play with in this.
Technically 5, because they've got There's the Harlequin psychic
Oh,
tree
yeah.
and the Ynnari psychic tree. But if you're playing Craft World, you only get 3.
Which is what yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, technically 5. You have 3 main ones. You got Runes of Fate, Fortune, and Battle. And I'm pretty sure those have stayed the same. I mean, the powers have changed a little bit, but those are still core to Eldar as they have been.
Yep.
And I went through and I picked out 2 from each category that I thought were really cool. So the first one's of Runes of Fate. Runes of Fate get a bonus when you cast it on a 10 plus. It can be modified if Eldar have ways to modify that. They have a bonus that happens to them. So the first one is Guide. Pretty standard one, but still good. Warp Charge 6, 18-inch range, core character unit gets to reroll hit rolls.
Yep.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Cast on 10 plus, it's a 24-inch range. And then the other one is Will of
Asurian,
thank you. Again, 18-inch range, Warp Charge 6. Core character unit gains OBSEC. Also, they can shoot while doing an action and auto pass morale. And then on a 10 plus again, they increase range to 24 inches. Not all of them have the increased range as their bonus. Some of them are extra mortal wounds.
Yeah.
But that one, the second one's really powerful because if you can put that on, you can put it on Wraithguard, you could put it on even just Dire Avengers would be good.
Yeah, the kind of what I was thinking of when I was looking at the Codex is what we were talking about before. You put it on a Farseer on a jet bike, he can keep up with like a unit of Shining Spears because they don't have a Phoenix Lord, so they don't have any other way, I don't think, to get OBSEC, but that's a massive, really fast way to just kind of zip an OBSEC unit around the board.
Yeah, that'd be powerful. The other one that I thought of was Warp Spiders because they can deep strike, and then they could do an action in the corner, and if you put that psychic power on, they can still shoot because they got pretty potent shooting.
Yeah.
Or fire dragons even. But yeah, so really great psychic power, and as a Warp Charge 6, I think if you have enough psychics, you'll probably be using that one a lot.
Right. The weird thing about it, I don't think the cast on 10 bonus is very useful for most of them because increasing the range to 24, even with Strands of Fate, trying to cast something on a 10 up is still pretty difficult.
Tough, and you, at least for the range increase this one, you don't want to rely on rolling a 10 up to keep them in range. So yeah, I agree that those bonuses aren't great, but the ones where it's like you do an extra D3 mortal wounds if it's an offensive one, that's good. Yeah. So in Runes of Fortune, these are Craft World units only that can be affected by them. So 2 simple ones. The first one, Fortune Divergence, or Fateful Divergence. You just get a CP.
Yep.
So it's just another way to gain CP back every turn, which is good. I haven't looked too much at the Eldar stratagems, but if they're anything like recent codexes, they're very CP hungry.
Yes, I think the Eldar have a lot of very powerful CPs that can pull off some pretty big wombo combos. So they need those CPs badly.
Yeah. And then this one that can pair well with a a Fate dice. Ghost Walk, 12-inch range, Warp Charge 5, core or character get +2 to charge. So now if you have a deep strike of a big unit, you can have a 6 and a 2 and a D6. So it's an 8 plus D6 inch charge with a Warp Charge 5 psychic power.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I mean, you can really scale the table. And let's see, 8 plus D6, so your average is a 10 and 11 inch charge.
Reach out and touch someone.
Wow, awesome. Again, remember, you cannot declare a charge over 12 inches. You have to, but still that guarantees those long bomb charges.
Yeah.
Runes of Battle, these ones are the ones that can only be taken by the Warlocks and the Spirit Seers, and they still have their buff debuff bonuses, so you get to pick which variant you want. So, Enhance/Drain, Warp Charge 6, 18-inch range, core unit gets +1 to hit in melee, or you target an enemy, they get -1 to hit in melee. Very simple, but very good. And Protect and Jinx, I think this one changed a little bit. I could be wrong. Warp Charge 7, core unit gets +1 to their save, max of 2+, and an enemy unit gets -1 to their save, minimum 6+, and it does not affect invuln saves. It is just armor save. But still being able to turn off or debuff armor saves on top of AP.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Eldar have a lot of ways. All shuriken weapons have AP now. They do extra AP on 6s, and then you add an additional -1 to the save, and there's a lot of power armored units that just aren't getting saves anymore.
Yeah, and then the giving the +1 save, again, I really like the Wraith hosts. So being able to give your Wraith Guard an extra save to negate any AP already going onto them, is very powerful, in my opinion.
And if you play Iandan, then they've got, they have part of their chapter tactic is to reduce AP of incoming fire.
Ooh.
So you can, Eldar are still not a tanky army by any stretch of the imagination, but with the proper combination of certain things, they can
make them.
You can. It's not something you can reliably count on, but it can definitely come in handy and keep some things alive.
That's awesome. All right, so now the Warlord traits and relics.
Yeah. So one of the Warlord traits we want to focus on, Falcon Swiftness, is a +2 to move, and it's an auto 6-inch battle focus move. So this is really handy. I can see it being handy on a jet bike or a Autarch Skyrunner or just a foot Autarch, because you know, any amount of extra movement on a jet bike is even better, especially when you can make them obsec with a relic so they can get around the board more, they can battle focus further. And then it also helps if you've got just one sitting in the back with like a Reaper launcher. They can be battle focusing around your back line, giving out their reroll, hit roll buff to other units. And
I was saying that stacks. There was I don't think we have it on here, but there was another relic that gives you 20-inch move to a jet bike.
Yes, that's the one I meant. So yeah, the jet bike relic, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's a 20-inch move and it gives you obsec.
So then you can pair that one. So you have a 22-inch move and then a 6-inch battle focus. So you have a 28-inch move. Yeah,
so that's end of game. You need some last ditch, victory points. Just rocket your Autarch,
grabbing objectives,
and grab an objective.
That's big.
Another one, Fate's Messenger. Once per turn, you can turn a failed save into 0 damage. So again, with kind of the frailty of Eldar, this can turn a dead character into an alive character very easily, especially if they get hit with like a D6 damage weapon.
Yeah.
It can just keep them alive that much longer. And also, stuff like the Phoenix Gem, which we're going to focus on later, even if they do die, then they just pop back up. So it's kind of whack-a-mole with Eldar characters. They can be pretty hard to kill. The last Warlord trait that we're going to focus on, Seer of Shifting Vectors, allows you to regenerate command points on a roll of 6 for all CPU spend. So this, plus that psychic power we talked about, basically guarantees that Eldar will always be getting a command point back every phase. I'm not sure how useful it would be to take both of them because you can only get one back.
Yeah.
But it's still, if you're not casting the power because you need to cast something else, Seer of Shifting Vectors can come into play, or vice versa.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then relics, again, focusing on 3. I talked about the Phoenix Gem. The first time the bear is slain, on a 2-up, he pops back up with D3 wounds. So if you've got a close combat character, it can keep him in.
Just keep him going.
Keep him going. Keep him in one more fight phase, killing stuff. Aegis of Eldanesh. Autarch gets a 2-up save and -1 damage. Again, for kind of squishier characters, increasing their armor save and reducing the amount of damage they take can go a long way in keeping them on the field. So it's handy. It's handy on anybody, but again, this codex I feel like really rewards close combat Autarchs, either on foot or on a jet bike, and there's a lot of ways to multiply their effectiveness and keep them alive.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then Weeping Stones, it's Psychers only, but if you've got your Psycher on the battlefield, you can roll 1 extra D6 for Strands of Fate. So 7D6 instead of 66. You still keep the same amount of dice.
Correct, yep.
But it gives you a little bit more versatility in what you can take, because you're rolling more dice, so you have more options.
More dice, more options, yeah.
So that one's pretty good, especially if you're going to be taking Psychers if you play Eldar. So having something that can just benefit a more of a buff character is always handy.
Yeah,
just sitting in the back line casting like guide on people. And And then the last set of relics we're going to be focusing on, these are pretty interesting. Aspect relics. You pay 1 command point and you can take 2 of these and give them to Exarchs. So these are brand new and you have a lot of options, but again, we're focusing on 3.
Yep.
They're a little bit less potent than regular relics, but they're still, you get 2 of them for 1 command point and they're still pretty good. Dragon's Fury is a defensive relic for the Fire Dragon's Exarch, which makes the unit -2 to charge. So they're going to be getting up close and personal. Melta demands it.
Yeah.
So that makes it just a little bit harder to get to get to grips with them. Forces opponents to maybe make an additional move before they can get in. So it's handy to keep a very expensive unit. Fire Dragons are one of the more expensive aspect warriors.
Oh, are they? Okay.
And they're very potent, but anything to keep them alive a little bit longer. And then Shadow Sting, I believe that is a Striking Scorpions one.
Yeah.
Exarch gets +3 to their strength, AP -2, damage 2, and +2 attacks. Which for Striking Scorpions, they already are throwing out a lot of attacks because they'll have chainswords.
Right.
So damage 2, AP -2, strength 6. You're going to be chunking through Marines with kind of a crap load of attacks. So that it's a flat kind of multiplication to the offensive output of Striking Scorpions. And then Kind's Lance, I think this is my favorite of them because I like jet bikes and I like Shining Spears. And this one lets Shining Spears do D3 mortal wounds and a 4-up on the charge and make the opponent fight last, which is just good.
I'm curious, does it last the whole turn or just the fight phase? So the reason I ask is because fight last when you're charging in, grant your opponent fights last, doesn't do a ton, but it does force them if they want to try and go out of order. I don't know, maybe it'll help. I think the fight last thing is more situational, but doing some extra mortal wounds on the charge is always nice with them.
Definitely.
So we just went over the Exarch relics, or the aspect relics, but now there's even more you can give to these guys. They really are amplifying the amount of potential that these guys have. They're not just units moving around. So there are Exarch powers now. How they work, they're the chapter upgrades for the Codex, or the paid for point upgrades, whatever you call them. You can take 1 per Exarch. You cannot use the same one twice, but there are 3 options per aspect warrior. So you got a lot of options. You could pay for a lot of them if you really wanted to. So I just went through and I picked out my favorite from each aspect warrior because I didn't want to go over all 30 or 40 some. Right. So we'll just go down the list because I think they're cool. So Dire Avengers, 10 points for firm stance. The unit gains obsec and an extra leadership. I guess if you really want to use the Dire Avengers as your more battle line and not have to worry about the whole obsec issue, this is a great option for them.
Right, especially they used to be troops. So this is the best way to get like a powerful, effective, flexible shooting unit with obsec, because otherwise, we touch on it in a later slide, but Guardians and Rangers are your only real troop choices. So this gives you kind of an option to bring back the old troop choice Dire Avenger thing, basically.
Are Rangers troop choices?
They are.
Oh, they are?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. I thought they lost the troop choice key. Okay, so then the next one is Warp Spiders. Web of Deceit. Once per game, you can do a 9-inch redeploy instead of battle focusing. So you can just be like, at the end of the game, instead of your battle focus, just hop over to the other side of the table, secure an objective. I really like mobility options like that, so I think that's a big one. Shining Spears, 20 points for Expert Lancers, +1 to hit on the charge. I'm assuming they hit on 3s.
I think so, yeah.
Hitting on 2s with all those attacks is, if you're taking a big block of them, I don't know, what can you take them in, 6?
Yeah, I think 5 or 6.
Okay, so a unit of 6 then would be, might be worth the 20 points. Howling Banshees have a 20 points for Graceful Avoidance.
Avoidance.
Which is a 4-up invo to the whole unit. Again, that durability to a otherwise very squishy unit.
Right, and Howling Banshees, so it's another thing we don't necessarily touch on it in the video, but all Aspect Warriors get a 5-up invuln save now, which goes a long way to help them out. So this puts them to a 4-up, and then they also just have an inherent ability, -1 to hit in shooting and close combat. So Howling Banshees, they're kind of going to melt once you get hits into them, but getting hits through.
You gotta hit them first.
You gotta hit them first and then get through their invuln save.
Wow,
so that's handy.
That's a good one, yeah. Striking Scorpions, the 15 points for Crushing Blow. The Exarch attacks auto wound. So you just have to hit with them. And I mean, he hits on 3s, but all of his attacks, because he will have a lot of them, just auto wound. Yeah. I don't know if that one's, the best one to take.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to take all of these, but it's still,
Dear God, don't take all of them, or you won't have any points to take anything else.
Yeah. The Dark Reapers, this one's very good, and I could probably see it taken all the time. 15 points for Reaper's Reach. You can move and fire heavy weapons with no penalty. So,
that's
very
good.
good. Moving around, no penalties, always good. This, I think, is the best one in all of them. For the Fire Dragons, 25 points for Burning Heat. Shots within 9 inches, auto wound of their target. So, I mean, Fire Dragons put out a lot of shots, a lot of damage, but if you don't have to worry about wounding, you just have to worry about hitting, which you can modify the hitting to either, I don't think you can make them hit better, but you can at least give them rerolls.
Right. Either have
guide them.
Cast guide on them, have an autarch with them. There are ways to buff their ability to actually hit. Again, pop them out of a transport and nuke something. You can't jump back into the transport, but you sure as heck can nuke something.
Make sure something's dead with that, yeah. And then Swooping Hawks for 15 points, -1 to hit the unit.
Again, kind of ties in with their 5-up invuln. Just make some Swooping Hawks, I think especially, are very vulnerable because of the fact that they are going to be a lot closer.
Yeah.
So -1 to hit is nice. Goes a little bit of a way to keep them alive longer.
Yeah. All right, so those are the Exarch powers. And now, like we said, this codex isn't perfect. But again, these aren't like huge digs in the codex. They're just, we tried to find something that wasn't great, and this is what we found.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of in light of the absolutely enormous range refresh that the Eldar have gotten. It's still kind of the elephant in the room, is that they still have a lot of absolutely ancient models. See that picture of Fuegan? I think he's old enough to drink. A lot of the codex models in the Eldar Codex are old enough to drink, enlist in the military, vote, do all kinds of good stuff. This is not great because not only are a lot of these models old, but they're fine cast. And I personally like resin. I know a lot of people don't like resin, and I get why people don't like resin. Yeah. And I've built a lot of resin models, and I can say with confidence that Games Workshop Finecast is the worst resin that I've ever worked with compared to any other company, Forge World's resin, or just any other model manufacturer's resin. Finecast is about the worst way to do it. There's so much additional cleanup. This is a Finecast hate rant now. And a lot of units, so Striking Scorpions, Warp Spiders, Swooping Hawks, Fire Dragons, Fuegan, Baharoth, Carandaris, and a lot of their characters are still Finecast, which is not great.
Yeah, I know they couldn't do everything, but it would have been nice to see. I would have thought it would have been nice to at least see Warp Spiders get an update.
Yeah.
Because I think the Fire Dragons, the Striking Scorpions, and the Swooping Hawks, they look fine, but the Warp Spiders really are showing their age.
It's really, it's the Phoenix Lords and the Warp Spiders that look the worst. And then also, this is just kind of me looking down the line. Games Workshop, their trend is when a unit gets new models, they get new rules, which means there's probably going to be a lot more books later down the line that Eldar players are going to have to buy in order to have updated rules for all their models, or wait until 10th edition and they get the other half of their...
That's what I'm wondering, if it might be, okay, 10th edition will give you more of it. We'll give you Fire Dragons and Fuegan, and then...
And then you got to wait until 11th edition for Baharoth and the Swooping Hawks.
Yeah.
It's nice that they got what they got, but I wish they got more.
Yeah.
I'm greedy like that. And then another point about this codex that's kind of impossible not to talk about is how expensive everything is. Pretty much everything in the codex got better across the board, but they also got point increases to reflect this. So Eldar armies can get very expensive very quickly, especially with the Exarch powers we just talked about.
Right.
If you're not thinking, you can really quickly end up with like a lot of very expensive units and not a lot of flexibility. And then once one unit of Aspect Warriors gets nuked, that's a big chunk of your army that's gone.
Yeah, definitely does make the army constructing. You gotta think about it, because they are a very glass cannon army. So your units are expensive, they do damage, but you can't just throw them at the opponent and expect them to survive like a Space Marine or something. But yeah.
And then this is another kind of ugly thing. We were talking about this before we started recording the video. Games Workshop advertised the new Autarch kit that came in Eldritch Omens as cross-compatible with the old Autarch kit. And there's a couple problems with this. Rules-wise, they're not, which means this is an illegal loadout. You can't take a, what is that?
An Autarch with
wings. You can't take wings and a Reaper launcher because of Games Workshop's they don't like giving. I don't know. It's stupid. It really annoyed me, especially because they advertised them.
That I mean, the kits are compatible.
Yeah,
but the loadouts aren't.
It's like you've got the super flexible Autarch kit that came in Eldritch Omens, and then like at the bottom of the entry profile, it's like, if you don't take any of these other fun things, you can take this incredibly specific and restricted loadout with, I think it's like Manda blasters, a fusion pistol, a sword, and wings.
Yeah, if this model is not equipped with one Autarch jump generator or one Howling Banshee mask, this model's shuriken pistol can be a Starglaive, fusion pistol, Banshee blade, Manda blaster, Swooping Hawk wings.
It's stupid that they restricted it like that, especially when they advertise that as not being the case.
Weird. Weird. Yeah, I don't get it.
I'm kind of hoping, especially, the weirdest thing is that Games Workshop doesn't usually put things on their codex that you can't take in the codex. So I'm wondering, is that going to get FAQ'd? Was that an oversight? Did someone on the Warcom team just not talk to the people who were designing the rules when they wrote that article? It's really weird, but
yeah, hopefully it's a simple fix in either the FAQ, the 2-week out FAQ, or a not chapter approved. What's the other one called?
Balanced
data slate that addresses the fact that now you can take what's on the cover.
Yeah,
I don't know. That is really weird.
And then another thing I kind of noticed when I looked at the codex. So Dire Avengers are elites now. They used to be troops. This means that Guardians are your only compulsory, Guardians and Rangers are your only compulsory troops in the Codex, which means you don't have access to kind of the more flexible, powerful, elite infantry that Dire Avengers were. This means you have to commit to bigger units because they can only be taken in minimum squad sizes of 10.
Right.
Which, again, it just forces commitment to a higher point cost, which in an expensive Codex, I would rather take. I might want to take 5 Dire Avengers instead of 10 Guardians.
Right, yeah.
And then this is a fluff complaint for me, but I think it's kind of weird that I have to essentially throw the civilian militia National Guard into the meat grinder. That seems counterintuitive for a dying race to just okay, here's a fight. Civilian militia, as opposed to leaving the fighting to the professional Aspect Warriors, but
yeah, that's a good point.
I'm sure it was a balance thing, not a fluff thing. It bugs me.
They had to sell this new kit.
Right, exactly. And a good kit it is. You can make 2 units. Storm Guardians look good. Regular Guardians look good. Again, dear God, those old Guardians were old. Yeah. This is a perfect refresh.
I'm excited to see these guys on the table.
Yeah.
In their painted glory.
I promise I'll have them painted soon. And then the last thing that I did not like about this codex is that Corsairs are just 2 units with no generic HQs. You can take the basic troop unit or the elites, I forget the specific names they use, and the only way to get a Corsair HQ is if you take Prince Uriel, because he is in lore, he's a Corsair prince. If you are familiar again with older editions of 40K, you might be familiar with the Corsair army list, which was its own bespoke thing. It was a very unique, dynamic way to play Eldar. Kind of the way I like to think about it. So Ynnari are like a salad where you can take all of the units, but they're all separate. Corsairs were kind of like you take Craft Worlds and Dark Eldar and you put them in a blender. Instead of being, so it was just a really cool way to play Eldar, and it's kind of sad to see that reduced down to just 2 units with no way to even take, like you can't even do like the Sisters of Silence thing and just say like, hey, the Sergeant's an HQ choice, so you can at least take a patrol detachment. But it's, again, they're more of a kill team release, and it's nice to see them back in any form, but I just kind of wish they were more.
Just a little bit more.
A little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty much it. We've gone on the negatives, so just a little bit of a final verdict, I guess. I think just by going over our quick, couple glances and what we've seen so far, this codex is going to be powerful. Will it be a top 5 or a top tier codex? Right now, I think the 2 big dogs are Custodes because they got that crazy point drop as their codex came out, which is baffling. And then certain Tau lists are going to be nasty, especially in certain matchups.
Yep.
I don't say Tau are a auto win against everybody, but against certain lists, Tau just do damage.
Very hard to win.
So will this be the new top dog on top of those? No, but I could see it fitting right up in the top there. The biggest thing I see, honestly, is the Strands of Fate. Their sheer potential to swing a turn, a game, a crucial moment is unlike any other army has. And it might not happen. You might be playing in a tournament where you're like, there's just no way I need to roll, 3 saves, and, they're all on 6s, and you have to make 2 or 3 of them or something of them. And you can just say, one of those is a 6, or you have to make this 12-inch charge or whatever to make it so it's game-changing charge for any other army, but for you it's a 50-50 shot whether you make it. So it's got potential. I don't hate it. I do think you keep 5 of them, right? Or is it 4 dice that you keep?
It's 2, 3, 4, or 5 depending on game size.
So in a standard strike force, it's 5, right?
5 is for the 2,000 point.
Yeah. Okay. So I think 5 dice is 1 too many, just because you could roll, all saves on those. I think it should be 4, and then I know there's a way to boost it from 5 to 6. I think it should be from 4 to 5. Still, we'll have to see. Again, it's so swingy, it's hard to balance. You could have a game where 1 out of the 5 turns it helps you.
Yeah, and then the rest of the game, it's just like you get to take a 6 on at advance, which is nice, but it might not be what you need
not matter
that turn.
Yeah. So I really do like the rule. I just think it's dangerous potential in the army if someone knows how to use it.
Yep.
I guess if there's some other things I want to say quickly is that I do love how there are so many different ways to play this codex. We're already looking at all of us here, maybe minus Calvin, want to play an army out of this codex, but every single army would be vastly different. I would love to play a Wraith Host army. You want to play a Jet Bike or Aspect Warrior heavy one.
Yeah, I've already got the makings of a very Jet Bike heavy list just by what I've been picking up in preparation for this, and that'll play completely different than if you want to do like an Iandan Wraith Host.
Yeah, and Connor would want to pull out his old Harlequins that he used to play. Again, sure they got Jet Bikes and stuff, but they play very different than the Eldar jet bikes. And then there's tons of builds we aren't even touching. You could play an all infantry build or a very vehicle heavy build. It's just, I love when codexes have such variety. That's why I liked, back when Tyranid 8th edition codex, when the data sheets were on par, I love that about the Tyranids is that there's so many ways to play the Tyranids. Now we're kind of fixed into a few play styles, but Tyranids are one of the other codexes that give you so much variety, and I do think that is a huge pro about this book. Anything else you want to say about the codex that anything you're looking forward to? you're liking.
Taste the rainbow. I guess just a little preview. I will be painting my craft world as Mimera, so teal and kind of blackish gray. So they should be looking cool, and I am really looking forward to having them on the channel soon. We've got a lot of model releases to look forward to for the Eldar, because we've barely scratched the surface on what's been previewed with what came out today.
Oh, I guess, yeah, not everything was actually released yet.
Yep. So
we still need the Avatar and the Combat Patrol box. And what else? I don't know. Maybe we have everything.
Oh,
else.
And Shining Spears.
Shining Spears,
Yep.
yes. Those are important too. But yeah, you've got 2 boxes of Eldar, of the Guardians.
Yep.
You've got the Eldritch Omens half, so you've got a new Autarch, the bike guys, and
Shroud Runners and
Shroud
Rangers.
Runners. And Rangers, okay, right.
Yep.
Rangers with that too.
And then I've also got, like I said, Jet Bike Heavy. So I actually already have 5 of the old Shining Spears. I have an Autarch on a Jet Bike, and I've got, I think, like 3 Farseers and 3 Warlocks. Just, again, I was, knowing that I was going to start Eldar, I'd been scouring swap groups on eBay, just picking up units here and there. So it should be a really fun army, and I can't wait to show it off on the channel.
Absolutely, and we will get you a battle report as soon as we can. Probably won't be until April when you actually see it, but we'll get you a battle report. In the meantime, Sam will work on this army, and we'll have some other videos for you guys in the future. So that is all we got today. We don't want to ramble too much long, because we did want to try and keep this more condensed than other reviews. So thank you guys for watching. Again, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our content here at Maelstrom Game Studios. If you're an Eldar player, check out the Strands of Fate chart that will be in our Etsy shop. I'll put the link here, and you can also see down in the description. Check it out. All that goes straight back into supporting the channel, helping us grow as well. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.